The first thing Leon Fischer noticed about the planet was how light he felt. The shuttle doors hissed open, and cold violet air rolled into the transport bay. The gravity regulators inside the ship disengaged with a soft hum, recalibrating to the local planetary standard. Leon braced himself out of habit. Nothing happened. No crushing adjustment, no shift in balance. If anything, his boots felt lighter against the floor. Leon stepped down the ramp and tried not to smile. The training world of Kael'thar was a jagged expanse of black stone and silver dust, its horizon broken by towering spires of metallic structures that housed the Coalition's most brutal military training program. This was where elite soldiers were forged from dozens of species across 3 sectors. And Leon Fischer was the only human in the intake line. He was 24 years old, broad-shouldered, with dark blonde hair cropped close to regulation length and steady blue eyes that missed very little. His posture was disciplined, but not stiff. He carried himself like someone who had already survived something difficult and wasn't eager to prove it. The aliens around him were varied. Towering reptilian bipeds with scaled hides and heavy tails, lean avian warriors with folded wing crests along their backs, thick-plated quadrupeds that walked upright using mechanical harnesses, slender, silver-skinned humanoids with luminous eyes and long, articulated fingers. They all stared. One of the reptilians let out a low clicking sound. "That is the human," the reptilian asked in heavily accented Coalition standard. "Yes," replied a tall, silver-skinned officer standing at the front of the formation. The officer's name was Commander Vaelrin. Her species, the Illyri, were known for precision and ruthless efficiency. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her metallic-hued skin reflecting the pale light of Kael'thar's sun. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, and her uniform bore the insignia of a senior tactical commander. She regarded Leon as one might regard an experiment. Leon met her gaze without flinching. Commander Vaelrin stepped forward. "Recruit Leon Fischer, step out." Leon stepped out. The reptilian cadet beside him muttered something that sounded like a suppressed laugh. Vaelrin circled Leon slowly. "Your species petitioned for inclusion in Coalition military exchange programs," she said. "Earth is classified as a high-gravity world." "Yes, ma'am," Leon replied evenly. A ripple of quiet murmurs passed through the formation. One of the avian soldiers tilted her crested head. "High gravity, that one." Leon heard it, he didn't react. Commander Vaelrin stopped in front of him. "You understand that Kael'thar's gravity is calibrated to Coalition median standards, approximately 60% of Earth." Leon allowed himself a small nod. "Yes, ma'am." She studied him more closely now. The reptilian from earlier spoke again, louder this time. His name tag identified him as Kael'thar of the Vexari. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, thick-muscled, his scaled hide a deep iron red. "If Earth gravity is greater, then this one should be impaired here, weak without proper resistance." Several cadets chuckled. Leon kept his eyes forward. Commander Vaelrin said nothing for a moment. Then she addressed the entire intake class. "You are here because your governments believe you possess elite potential. You will train together. You will compete against one another. Most of you will fail." Her luminous gaze shifted briefly back to Leon. "Some of you," she continued, "are expected to fail." No one misunderstood who she meant. Leon's jaw tightened slightly. He forced himself to breathe evenly. This wasn't new. Humans were new to interstellar politics. To many species they were curiosities, to others unpredictable, to some primitive. He had grown up hearing the commentary. Earth had survived, that was enough. The first trial began within the hour. They were marched into an open canyon carved into Kael'thar's basalt surface. Suspended across the canyon were segmented platforms that shifted unpredictably, rising and falling on gravitic pulses. Course 1, announced Instructor Jorvik, a hulking amphibious species with broad shoulders and heavy limbs. Cross from this ridge to the opposite side. You will not use propulsion packs. You will not use grapples. You will rely on balance, timing, and strength. The canyon floor lay 200 meters below. The reptilian Kael'thar flexed his claws. A simple test. The first cadet leapt. Immediately, the shifting gravity pulses knocked him sideways. He caught himself barely, claws scraping metal. The platforms tilted violently, compensating for his mass. 2 more cadets followed. Leon stepped to the edge. He felt stable. Too stable. He glanced down at his boots, then at the platform oscillation frequency. This gravity was light, almost buoyant. He bent his knees slightly and jumped. He overshot the first platform entirely. Gasps rippled through the canyon. Leon adjusted midair, twisting his body instinctively. He caught the edge of the second platform with one hand, swung his legs up with fluid efficiency, and landed cleanly. Silence. The platform dipped under his weight, but not nearly as violently as it had for the others. Leon blinked once. He had barely exerted himself. He continued forward, timing the pulses easily. Each leap felt like slow motion. His muscles, conditioned by Earth's heavier gravity, responded with explosive precision. His lungs burned less. His joints absorbed impact effortlessly. Behind him, Kael'thar growled and launched himself forward. The Vexari hit the third platform and stumbled, overcompensating for the lighter gravity. His tail lashed for balance. Leon reached the final ridge first. He landed smoothly and straightened. Instructor Jorvik stared at him. Explain. Leon hesitated. Sir. You demonstrate superior adaptation. Why? Leon chose his words carefully. Earth's gravity is stronger. My musculature and skeletal density developed under higher load. Kael'thar finally reached the far side, panting slightly. His scaled chest rose and fell heavily. He glared at Leon. You are saying, Kael'thar said slowly, that this course is easier for you. Leon met his eyes. Yes. The canyon fell completely silent. Commander Valrin watched Leon differently now. The second trial was endurance. They were fitted with weighted exoskeletal rigs calibrated to each species, physiological norms. Leon's rig was adjusted according to standard human baseline data. He immediately felt something closer to home. The march across Kael'thar's silver plains lasted 6 hours. One by one, cadets began to falter. An avian recruit stumbled when her wing crests strained under the exo-weight. A quadrupedal species disengaged early, their breathing apparatus flashing warning signals. Kael'thar pushed forward stubbornly, sweat darkening the scales around his neck. Leon focused on rhythm. Left, right, breathe. The weight felt familiar, like running drills back on Earth under combat load. At hour 4, Instructor Jorvik increased the exo resistance by 10% across the board. Several cadets collapsed outright. Leon adjusted his stride. At hour 5, Kael'thar stumbled. Leon caught him instinctively before the Vexari hit the ground. The reptilian snarled, jerking away. Do not touch me, human. Leon raised both hands. You are falling. I do not require assistance. Kael'thar pushed forward again, but his gait was uneven now. Leon stayed slightly behind him, not offering help again, but close enough that if the Vexari truly went down, he could intervene. When the march finally ended, only 6 cadets remained upright. Leon was one of them. Commander Valrin stepped before the exhausted group. You continue to defy projected outcomes, Recruit Fischer, she said. Leon's chest rose steadily. Just doing my best, ma'am. One of the remaining cadets spoke for the first time. She was tall and lithe, her skin a deep cobalt blue, faintly bioluminescent along the edges of her cheekbones. Her species bore subtle facial ridges and long, flowing tendrils that moved gently with shifts in air pressure. Her name patch read, Sergeant Kael'thar Veyer. Unlike the others, she had not mocked him earlier. She regarded Leon with something closer to curiosity. "Commander," Kael'thar said calmly, her voice low and resonant, "it appears the human is not as fragile as assumed." A faint murmur passed through the observers. Commander Valeron's gaze flicked to Kael'thar, then back to Leon. "This is preliminary," Valeron said. "Raw strength does not equate to battlefield effectiveness." Leon nodded, "Understood, ma'am." But something had shifted. Not respect, not yet. But doubt. And doubt was the first crack in prejudice. That evening, Leon sat alone in the barracks module assigned to him. The room was minimalist, metallic, illuminated by soft blue overhead strips. His body felt alive. For the first time since leaving Earth, he didn't feel like he was compensating. He heard the door hiss open. Leon stood instinctively. Sergeant Kael'thar entered. Up close, he noticed the faint glow tracing the lines along her jaw. Her eyes were silver with dark pupils, intelligent and observant. "I did not request entry," Leon said carefully. "You did not lock the access panel," Kael'thar replied. He almost smiled. "Why are you here, Sergeant?" She studied him openly, to understand. "Understand what?" "You." Leon leaned slightly against the edge of the bunk, maintaining respectful distance. "I'm not that complicated." "You contradict projections," she said. "Your species profile indicated moderate durability, moderate strength, high adaptability. Yet you outperform Vexari heavy infantry recruits in raw output." Leon shrugged faintly. "Earth doesn't give you a choice." She tilted her head. "Explain." He considered how much to say. "Earth's gravity is strong. Our weather is violent. Our ecosystems compete constantly. If you're born human, you grow up adapting. If you don't adapt, you don't last." Kael'thar watched him carefully. "And yet," she said, "you volunteered to join a program where you are unwelcome." Leon held her gaze. "I'm used to that too." For the first time, something flickered in her expression. Not pity. Recognition. Outside, Kael'thar's twin moons rose over the black horizon. Inside the training compound, expectations were beginning to fracture. And Leon Fischer, the lone human recruit, had just taken his first step toward rewriting them. The third trial was designed to break cohesion. Instructor Jorvik gathered the remaining cadets inside a massive enclosed chamber whose walls shimmered with active projection grids. The floor was layered with sand-like particulate that shifted underfoot, destabilizing balance. "You have demonstrated baseline physical competency," Jorvik rumbled. "Now we evaluate tactical cooperation." Kael'thar stood rigid, arms folded across his armored chest. He did not look at Leon. Sergeant Kael'thar stood on Leon's opposite side. Her bioluminescent markings were dimmer today, as if conserving energy. Jorvik activated the chamber. Instantly, the room transformed into a simulated war zone. Metallic structures rose from the ground. Smoke flooded the air. Distant explosions reverberated through hidden speakers with unsettling realism. "Objective," Jorvik continued, "reach the central uplink node and secure it. Hostile drones will engage. You will function as a unit." A unit. Leon felt the irony. The first drone emerged from a cloud of smoke, a hovering sphere armed with stun lances. Kael'thar reacted first, charging with brute force. He leapt, claws extended, tearing the drone from the air. Two more drones descended, immediately behind him. "Flank left," Leon shouted instinctively. No one moved. One drone fired. The stun lance struck a quadrupedal cadet in the side. The cadet convulsed and dropped. Thalara reacted next. "Defensive perimeter," she commanded sharply. Her voice carried authority. Leon moved toward her position without hesitation. Another drone swooped low. Leon grabbed a fallen length of metal conduit from the ground and hurled it with precise force. The conduit smashed into the drone's propulsion core, sending it crashing into the sand. Kael'thar growled, "You assume command, human." "I assume survival," Leon shot back, not taking his eyes off the incoming threat. More drones activated, 6 this time. They were being overwhelmed. Leon assessed quickly. The drones prioritized isolated targets. Kael'thar was overextending. The remaining cadets were reacting individually instead of collectively. "Cluster on me," Leon shouted. "Force them into crossfire lanes." "Silence." Then Thalara moved. She stepped to Leon's side deliberately and raised her pulse rifle. "Form on the human," she ordered the others. The shift was immediate. Reluctant but immediate. Kael'thar hesitated, then repositioned to Leon's right flank. Together, they created a tight defensive formation. Leon called targets clearly. High left, 2 advancing center, Kael'thar low sweep. Kael'thar complied, tail lashing as he pivoted. His heavy strikes shattered a drone attempting to flank. Thalara's shots were precise, controlled bursts that disabled propulsion without wasting energy. Within minutes, the chamber fell silent. The final drone sparked and collapsed. Instructor Jorvik's voice echoed through the smoke. "Simulation complete." The projections dissolved. The fallen cadets stirred, systems reactivating from stun mode. Jorvik approached slowly. "You altered command hierarchy," he said to Leon. Leon straightened. "There wasn't one, sir." "You assumed authority." Leon chose his words carefully. "I identified a gap and filled it." Kael'thar stepped forward suddenly. He did not hesitate, the Vexari said, voice low but firm. While others evaluated, he acted. Jorvik studied Kael'thar. "You defend him." Kael'thar's golden eyes flicked briefly toward Leon. "I state observable fact." Thalara added calmly. "The human demonstrated effective battlefield awareness." Leon didn't speak. He didn't trust the moment. Instructor Jorvik turned away at last. "Noted." That single word carried weight. That night, Leon felt the atmosphere in the barracks shift. The open hostility was muted now. Conversations did not cease when he entered. Some even included him. Not warmly, but neutrally. "Progress." He sat on his bunk, reviewing tactical overlays when a shadow fell across the doorway. Kael'thar stood there. Up close, the Vexari was even more imposing. Thick scales layered like natural armor. A heavy tail coiled behind him, deep scar lines marking previous battles. "You compensated for my overextension," Kael'thar said without greeting. "Yes." "Why?" Leon looked up. "Because if you went down, our right flank collapsed." Kael'thar's jaw flexed. "You could have allowed me to fail." Leon shrugged slightly. "That wouldn't help the team." A long pause stretched between them. "In Vexari doctrine," Kael'thar said slowly, "weakness is exposed and eliminated." "On Earth," Leon replied, "we call that wasting potential." Kael'thar studied him for several seconds. "You are not weak." It was not praise. It was acknowledgement. "I never said I was," Leon replied. Kael'thar gave a low, rumbling sound that might have been amusement. After he left, Thalara entered moments later. She moved with controlled grace, her tendrils shifting subtly with each step. "You are altering dynamics," she said. Leon exhaled. "That good or bad?" "Undetermined." She stepped closer, lowering her voice slightly. "Some resent it." "Kael'thar doesn't seem to." "He respects strength. You have demonstrated it. Leon hesitated, then asked, and you? Thalara's luminous markings brightened faintly along her cheekbones. I respect results. Their eyes held a moment longer than strictly necessary. Then the alarm klaxon sounded. Not a simulation tone. A real one. The lights shifted to emergency crimson. Leon was on his feet instantly. Instructor Jorvik's voice thundered through the intercom. All cadets report to Sector Delta perimeter. This is not a drill. Leon's pulse quickened. Outside, chaos unfolded. A supply transport had malfunctioned during atmospheric descent and impacted beyond the training perimeter. Fire burned across the rocky plains. Smoke twisted into Kael'thar's dim sky. This is a live response scenario, Commander Vaelrin announced upon their arrival. Rescue teams are delayed. You will stabilize survivors. Leon scanned the crash site. The transport lay partially embedded in fractured rock. Sections of hull plating had peeled back violently. Without waiting for further instruction, Leon sprinted forward. The lighter gravity made his stride almost explosive. Behind him, others followed. Inside the wreckage, heat radiated intensely. A trapped alien technician cried out from beneath a collapsed support beam. Leon assessed quickly. The beam was massive, composite alloy warped by impact. Kael'thar tried lifting one end. It barely shifted. It is fused, Kael'thar growled. Leon crouched beside the beam. On Earth, this would be borderline impossible. Here, he braced his feet, gripped the edge, and lifted. The beam rose. Not effortlessly, but steadily. Kael'thar's eyes widened. Pull them free, Leon strained. Thalara and another cadet dragged the injured technician out from beneath the wreckage. Clear, Thalara called. Leon lowered the beam carefully, muscles trembling now from heat and sustained tension. He stepped back, breathing hard. Commander Vaelrin had witnessed the entire act. Her voice cut through the smoke. Human physiology confirms enhanced load-bearing in this gravity. Leon wiped soot from his face. Ma'am, with respect, now isn't the time. For a split second, something like approval flashed in her eyes. Continue rescue operations, she ordered. Hours later, when the fires were extinguished and the injured transported away, the cadets stood exhausted beneath the twin moons. No one looked at Leon with mockery anymore. They looked at him with something else. Something earned. As the group dispersed, Thalara stepped beside him. You did not hesitate, she said quietly. Leon shrugged faintly. They needed help. You lifted what Kael'thar could not. He softened it first, Leon replied. Thalara's gaze lingered on him. Your species, she said slowly, may alter coalition projections more than anticipated. Leon met her eyes, tired but steady. We tend to. Above them, Kael'thar's sky shimmered with distant stars. And somewhere in the command tower, expectations were being rewritten. But the commendations did not come publicly. They came quietly. 2 days after the crash rescue, Leon was summoned to the observation chamber above Training Sector Delta. The room overlooked the primary drill fields through reinforced transparent alloy. Coalition flags representing 12 species lined the curved wall behind a central command console. Commander Vaelrin stood at attention. She was not alone. 3 observers from separate coalition governments were present. Leon recognized none of their species. One was tall and insectoid, multi-jointed limbs folded carefully. Another resembled a narrow, floating cephalopod encased in a gravitic harness. The third was a stocky armored being whose face remained hidden behind a reflective visor. Leon stepped forward and saluted. Recruit Leon Fischer, reporting as ordered, ma'am. Vaelrin inclined her head slightly. Observers have requested clarification regarding your continued participation in this program. Leon kept his posture straight. Clarification, ma'am. The floating cephalopod's voice emerged through a mechanical translator. Human physiology is producing anomalous results. Leon remained silent. The armored observer spoke next. Your success alters comparative performance metrics. Some member states question whether your participation constitutes an unfair advantage. Leon blinked once. Unfair? Vaelrin's luminous eyes flicked toward him, measuring his reaction. The insectoid observer shifted. Coalition training parameters were designed around median gravity adaptation. Earth exceeds those baselines. Leon understood now. They didn't want to expel him because he was weak. They were considering expelling him because he was. With respect, Leon said carefully, Kael'thar's gravity isn't artificial. It's the planet's natural state. Correct, said the armored figure. And you accepted Earth's application knowing our planetary classification, Leon continued. Silence. Vaelrin stepped forward at last. The human will remain, she said firmly. His performance demonstrates adaptability and resilience. These are coalition values. The insectoid's mandibles clicked, and if his advantage skews training outcomes. Vaelrin did not hesitate. Then others must rise to meet him. Leon felt something shift in the room. This was no longer about him proving himself to cadets. It was about him redefining standards. After dismissal, Vaelrin stopped him at the doorway. You handled that exchange adequately, she said. Leon allowed himself a small exhale. Was I close to being removed? Yes. He absorbed that. You will face increased scrutiny now, Vaelrin continued. Some will seek to discredit your performance. Leon nodded, understood. As he turned to leave, she added quieter, do not give them cause. That afternoon's trial was announced without prior schedule. A live-fire mobility gauntlet across fractured terrain beyond the primary compound. Kael'thar joined Leon at the staging platform. There are rumors, the Vexari said bluntly. I figured. They say you distort competitive balance. Leon gave a humorless smile. That's one way to put it. Kael'thar studied him. Does it anger you? Leon considered that honestly. A little, he admitted, but I'm not here to be comfortable. Kael'thar gave a low, approving rumble. Thalara approached next. Her expression was more serious than usual. They will push you harder, she said quietly. Leon met her silver gaze. You worried? Her bioluminescent markings brightened faintly, betraying emotion despite her composure. Yes. The word hung there. Before Leon could respond, the gauntlet began. The terrain was brutal, jagged black stone, narrow ridges suspended over deep chasms. Automated turrets activated intermittently, forcing rapid cover transitions. Leon moved fast. Too fast. In his drive to demonstrate capability, he pushed ahead of formation. A turret activated from an unexpected angle. A plasma bolt struck near his flank, detonating rock beneath his footing. The ledge crumbled. Leon dropped. For a split second, weightlessness felt familiar. Then he slammed against a lower outcropping, barely catching a narrow edge with one hand. Pain shot through his shoulder. Above Kael'thar roared Leon. It was the first time the Vexari had used his name. Leon's grip slipped slightly on loose gravel. He could pull himself up. Probably. But the angle was wrong. His shoulders strained under full body weight. Thalara appeared at the ledge above him, prone, extending her arm downward. Take my hand, she called. Leon looked up at her. Her tendrils fluttered wildly in the wind currents from turret discharge. If you pull me, you'll destabilize your position, Leon warned. "Take my hand," she repeated, voice firm. Kael'thar anchored himself behind her, tail wrapped around a rock spur for leverage. Leon made a decision. He reached up. Their hands clasped. Her grip was strong but lighter than his. Together, with Kael'thar stabilizing, they hauled him upward. Leon rolled onto solid ground, breathing hard. Kael'thar hovered over him briefly, scanning for injury. "You overextended," she said sharply. Leon nodded. "Yeah." Her voice softened slightly. "You do not need to prove yourself every moment." He met her eyes. "Feels like I do." Something unspoken passed between them. Kael'thar snorted. "If you die human, I will be forced to carry extra ammunition." Leon laughed despite himself. The moment broke tension. They finished the gauntlet together, slower but coordinated. This time, Leon did not surge ahead. He matched their pace. That evening, as medics cleared his shoulder for continued training, Kael'thar approached him outside the barracks. The twin moons cast silver light across the compound. "You scare them," she said. "Who?" "The observers, some instructors." Leon leaned against the wall. "Because I'm human. Because you adapt too quickly." He looked at her thoughtfully. "Back on Earth, that's considered a compliment." She stepped closer. "You risk isolation if you continue to outpace without integration." Leon studied her expression. "Is that professional advice," he asked quietly, "or personal?" Her glow intensified subtly along her cheekbones. "Both." Silence stretched. Wind brushed across the open plain. "Why do you care?" Leon asked. Kael'thar hesitated for the first time since he'd met her. "Because," she said slowly, "I misjudged you." He waited. "I assumed," she continued, "that you would rely solely on physical advantage, that you would lack discipline. Instead, you carry restraint." Leon felt warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with gravity. "And," he prompted gently, "and I find that compelling." The word was deliberate. Before Leon could respond, a new alarm sounded. Not crash response. Not drill start. This one was sharp and urgent. Commander Vaelren's voice echoed across the compound. "All units to defensive positions. Unidentified craft approaching perimeter." Leon's head snapped upward. This was not part of the training schedule. In the distance, against the dark sky, streaks of light cut downward through atmosphere. Real ships. Real threat. Kael'thar appeared at Leon's side instantly. Kael'thar activated her rifle. Commander Vaelren's voice cut through again. "This is not simulation. This is incursion." Leon felt it then. Not the light gravity. Not the prejudice. Something else. Opportunity. Whatever was descending toward, Kael'thar had no idea that a human raised under crushing gravity was about to greet them. And this time, Leon Fischer would not just prove himself to cadets. He would prove humanity to the coalition. The first impact struck the outer perimeter shield and shattered it like glass. A ripple of blue energy burst outward across the night sky before collapsing into sparks. The unidentified craft descended through the breach in a formation of 3 angular hulls, dark metallic plating, no coalition insignia. "Positions," Commander Vaelren ordered. Defense turrets rose from concealed emplacements across the compound, swiveling toward the descending ships. Plasma fire streaked upward. The enemy returned fire immediately. One of the outer watchtowers exploded in a blossom of orange light. Leon's pulse steadied. This wasn't simulation. There were no stun settings now. Kael'thar cracked his neck once and gripped his heavy rifle. "Finally," the Vixari growled. Kael'thar activated her comm channel. "All cadets, defensive line formation Theta, protect the command structure." Leon adjusted his stance, eyes tracking the nearest descending craft. The gravity felt even lighter now under adrenaline. The first hostile troops dropped before the ships fully landed. They were tall, armored in dark segmented plating, faces obscured behind narrow visors. Their movements were fast, too fast for comfort, enhanced by propulsion bursts from compact packs on their backs. They hit the ground running. Plasma fire filled the air. Leon dove behind a fractured barricade as a bolt scorched the stone where he had stood. Left flank breach, someone shouted over comms. Leon glanced toward the perimeter wall. A group of 3 hostiles had landed beyond the outer trench and were advancing rapidly toward the cadet barracks. "That's non-combat personnel," Leon muttered. Without waiting for orders, he broke cover. "Leon," Thalara's voice snapped in his earpiece. He was already moving. Under Kael'thar's gravity, his sprint was explosive. Each stride launched him farther than instinct expected. He cleared a 5-meter trench in a single leap and rolled to absorb impact. The hostiles pivoted toward him instantly. One fired. Leon twisted mid-stride. The bolt grazed his side, burning through fabric but not penetrating deeply. He closed distance before they could recalibrate. The first enemy raised a blade. Leon caught the wrist. Under Earth gravity, this opponent might have matched him. Here, Leon's strength was overwhelming. He twisted hard. The alien's arm snapped with a sharp crack. Leon pivoted and drove his shoulder into the second attacker, slamming them backward into a rock spire with bone-jarring force. The third hostile ignited a propulsion burst, attempting vertical repositioning. Leon jumped. He met the alien midair. Both crashed into the ground in a tangle of armor and limbs. Leon struck once precise, controlled, and the alien went still. Breathing hard, Leon scanned for more threats. 2 cadets emerged from the barracks corridor behind him, wide-eyed. "You are injured," one of them said. "Superficial," Leon replied, already moving back toward the main defensive line. Across the field, Kael'thar was a force of destruction. The Vexari charged directly into enemy fire, absorbing glancing hits off his natural scales. He tore through 2 attackers with brutal efficiency, tail whipping one off their feet before crushing another beneath his weight. But numbers were increasing. One of the enemy ships pivoted, lowering closer to ground level. A heavy cannon extended from its undercarriage and began charging. "That weapon will breach Central Command," Thalara warned. Commander Vaelrin stood near the command tower entrance, directing defensive fire with calm precision. Leon saw the cannons targeting Arcshift. "Toward her." "Commander," Leon shouted over open comms. She looked up just as the cannon discharged. Leon didn't think. He ran. The distance was too far to cover conventionally. He calculated angle, momentum, timing. He sprinted toward a fallen cargo crate, planted a foot, and launched himself off it with everything he had. The lighter gravity amplified the leap beyond reason. He collided with Vaelrin mid-stride and tackled her clear as the plasma blast struck where she had stood. The explosion shattered the stone behind them. Leon rolled, shielding her with his body until debris stopped falling. Vaelrin pushed herself up first. "You disobeyed positional orders," she said sharply. Leon coughed once. "Yes, ma'am." A second cannon charge began to build. This time, Leon did not wait for reprimand. "Kael'thar," he shouted, "we take the cannon." The Vexari responded instantly. Together, they sprinted toward the hovering craft. Incoming fire streaked around them. Leon zigzagged, adjusting for projectile speed and gravity drop. He grabbed a fallen portable launcher from a downed defensive trooper and hurled it to Kael'thar. The Vexari caught it mid-stride. "On my mark," Leon yelled. They split directions at the last second. The cannon tracked Kael'thar's larger heat signature. Leon vaulted onto a jutting rock formation, gaining elevation. He used the reduced gravity to climb faster than physics on Earth would ever allow. He reached the underside of the hovering craft. The cannon began to pivot. "Now," Leon shouted. Kael'thar fired. The launcher struck the cannon housing directly. The explosion destabilized the craft's lower thrusters. Leon leapt upward, grabbed an exposed maintenance seam, and drove his combat blade into the propulsion joint. The ship lurched violently. Leon kicked off just before it slammed into the ground in a cascade of metal and flame. Shockwaves rippled across the battlefield. The remaining hostiles faltered. Coalition forces surged forward. Within minutes, the incursion was broken. Smoke drifted across the shattered perimeter. Silence settled slowly. Leon stood amid the wreckage, chest heaving. His side burned where plasma had grazed him. His shoulder throbbed from the earlier fall. Kael'thar approached, breathing heavily. "You leap like a predator born of storms," the Vexari said. Leon managed a tired grin. "We get rough weather back home." Commander Vaelrin walked toward them. Her uniform was scorched. A thin cut marked her temple. She stopped directly in front of Leon. "You disregarded direct order," she said. Leon braced for formal reprimand. "You left formation," she continued. "Yes, ma'am." "You neutralized a heavy weapon platform." Leon hesitated, with Kael'thar's assistance. Vaelrin's gaze flicked to the Vexari briefly, then back. "You saved my life." Leon didn't answer. Several cadets were watching now. "So were instructors." Vaelrin straightened fully. "Effective immediately," she announced clearly. "Recruit Leon Fischer is elevated to Tactical Squad Lead for Cadet Unit 3. A ripple moved through the gathered soldiers. Kael'thar gave a satisfied rumble. Thalara stepped forward slightly, her luminous markings bright with emotion. Leon blinked. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "I'm still the least experienced here." "Experience," Vaelrin replied, "is not solely measured in cycles served. It is measured in action under pressure." She paused. "You have demonstrated that repeatedly." For the first time since arriving on Kael'thar, Leon felt something solid settle beneath his feet. Not lightness. Belonging. Later in the medical bay, as a technician sealed the plasma graze on his side, Thalara stood beside him. "You could have died," she said quietly. Leon looked at her. "So could she. That was not your burden alone." "Maybe not," he said, "but I could carry it." Her gaze softened. "You carry much," she said. Leon studied her expression, the faint glow along her cheekbones, the subtle tension in her posture. "And you?" he asked. She hesitated only briefly. "When you fell from the ridge earlier," she admitted, "my equilibrium destabilized." Leon's heartbeat quickened. "You were worried." "Yes." He smiled faintly. "That's allowed." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "It is inefficient," she said. "But," he prompted. Her tendrils brushed lightly against his arm, an unconscious gesture perhaps. "But I do not regret it." Outside the medical bay, cadets moved through the corridor. Some nodded at Leon as they passed. Not mockery. Not neutrality. Respect. The coalition observers would have their reports now. Not about imbalance. About potential. And for the first time, Leon Fischer was no longer the human expected to fail. He was the soldier others rallied behind. The official report labeled the incursion a border aggression test. That was diplomatic language. In private briefings, it was called what it truly was, a probe. Someone had wanted to see how quickly Kael'thar could respond. Someone had underestimated the cadets. But not anymore. Leon stood at the center of the tactical chamber 3 days after the attack. The room's projection grid displayed a holographic reconstruction of the battlefield. Coalition observers filled the upper viewing gallery. Commander Valrin addressed them without raising her voice. "The incursion was repelled in under 9 minutes," she said. "Casualties minimal, structural damage contained." The hologram replayed Leon's leap toward the heavy cannon. The gallery murmured. One of the observers, the same armored delegate who had questioned Leon's inclusion, leaned forward. "The human's intervention appears decisive." Valrin did not smile. "Yes." Leon stood motionless while the recording continued. There was no embellishment, no dramatization, just physics. A human body moving through lighter gravity with explosive control. Kael'thar stepped into frame in the hologram, firing the launcher in coordination. Kael'thar repositioning squad lines to contain the breach. It had not been Leon alone, but he had been the fulcrum. After the briefing, Leon was dismissed along with the other cadets. Kael'thar fell into step beside him as they exited. "You are now political," the Vexari said bluntly. Leon exhaled. "That's not reassuring." "You have become symbol," Kael'thar continued. "Some will support, others will resent." "Do you resent?" Leon asked. Kael'thar stopped walking. His golden eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "In Vexari culture," he said slowly, "respect is earned in blood and endurance. You have paid both." Leon nodded once. "Then we stand beside you," Kael'thar finished. That simple declaration carried more weight than any formal commendation. The next phase of training was announced that evening. Final evaluation trial. Not scheduled for another 6 weeks. Moved forward. Commander Valrin assembled Cadet Unit 3 personally. "This trial determines permanent coalition integration eligibility," she said. "It is designed to exceed comfort thresholds." Her gaze lingered briefly on Leon. "The scenario will simulate multi-environment combat across variable gravity zones." Leon's attention sharpened. Variable gravity, meaning not all sections would favor him. Good. He didn't want an asterisk beside his success. The trial began at dawn. The environment grid projected a fractured asteroid field suspended in vacuum simulation. Gravity generators fluctuated across sectors, some heavier than Kael'thar, some nearly zero. The objective: retrieve a command beacon from the center and extract as a unit. As squad lead, Leon issued quick assignments. Kael'thar heavy cover on approach. Kael'thar mid-range suppression. We move as one. No hesitation. No resistance. They trusted him now. The first sector was low gravity. Movement required careful momentum control. Leon adapted instantly, using micro-adjustments to conserve trajectory. Kael'thar struggled slightly with directional inertia, but compensated with powerful bursts. The second sector shifted abruptly. Gravity increased. Not to Earth levels, but higher than Kael'thar. Leon felt it immediately. His body responded with familiarity. Kael'thar's stride shortened. Kael'thara's breathing deepened. "Adjust packing," Leon ordered calmly. "Shorter steps, anchor between pushes." He slowed his own speed deliberately to maintain cohesion. They entered the central zone. The beacon pulsed ahead. Then the simulation escalated. Multiple hostile signatures activated simultaneously. And gravity spiked again. Harder this time. Not quite Earth, but close. Kael'thar dropped to one knee under the sudden load. Kael'thar staggered. One cadet behind them cried out as the shift disoriented their balance. Leon stood steady. For the first time since leaving Earth, The weight pressing down felt natural, comfortable. His lungs expanded fully. His spine aligned. This was home gravity. He turned. "I've got point," he said firmly. He advanced into the hostile field alone. Enemy drones activated under heavy gravity constraints, their propulsion systems compensating poorly. Leon moved through them like controlled violence. His strikes were efficient, measured, every movement calculated. Behind him, his squad struggled but held formation. A drone targeted Kael'thar as she attempted to regain footing. Leon crossed the distance in 3 strides and intercepted the blast with his armored forearm shield, deflecting the shot. "You do not leave formation," she said breathlessly. He allowed himself a brief grin. "Neither do you." They pushed forward together. Gravity fluctuated again, heavier still. Now even Leon felt the strain. His muscles burned. His heart hammered. But he knew this feeling. He had grown under this pressure. He reached the beacon first. But he did not extract it. Instead, he turned back toward his squad. Kael'thar was upright again, but slower. Kael'thar's glow flickered faintly with exertion. Leon stepped back toward them. "We finished together," he said. He positioned himself slightly behind Kael'thar and Kael'thar, redistributing incoming fire and absorbing impacts that would stagger them more severely. Step by step, they advanced. When Kael'thar faltered, Leon supported his flank without comment. When Kael'thar's footing slipped, Leon steadied her. They reached the extraction zone as a unit. Simulation ended. Gravity normalized. Silence filled the chamber. Instructor Jorvik approached slowly. "You could have completed objective independently," he said to Leon. "Yes, sir." "You did not." Leon met his gaze. "This isn't Earth," he said evenly. "It's the Coalition." Jorvik studied him for several seconds. Then he nodded once. In the observation gallery above, the armored delegate leaned back in their seat. No objections were raised this time. Later that night, alone beneath Kael'thar's twin moons, Leon stood at the edge of the training plateau. The wind moved softly across the silver plains. Footsteps approached. He didn't need to turn to know who it was. Kael'thar stopped beside him. "You limited yourself," she said quietly. Leon looked out at the horizon. "I did." "Why?" "Because leading isn't about finishing first." She studied him. "In heavy gravity," she said slowly, "you are extraordinary." "In any gravity," he replied gently, "we're stronger together." Her bioluminescent markings brightened gradually, reflecting emotion she no longer attempted to hide. "When you arrived," she admitted, "I expected you to fracture our unit." "And now?" "Now," she said, stepping closer, "I cannot imagine this unit without you." The wind carried silence between them. Leon turned slightly toward her. "Back on Earth," he said softly, "we have a phrase." She tilted her head. "What phrase?" "Pressure makes diamonds." She considered that. "You are not diamond," she said after a moment. Leon blinked. "That's not how the phrase." "You are gravity," she interrupted gently. "You make others stronger by your presence." He didn't know what to say to that. So he said the truth. "I didn't expect to find anyone here who saw me as more than an experiment." Her silver eyes held his. "I see you," she said. And this time, when her tendrils brushed against his arm, he didn't pretend it was accidental. Graduation day on Kael'thar did not resemble any human ceremony Leon had ever seen. There were no banners, no music, no celebratory noise. Only the wind moving across black stone and the low hum of gravitic stabilizers embedded beneath the primary platform. Cadets stood in formation before the central command spire. Their armor had been restored and polished. Scorch marks from the incursion were gone, but memory remained. Leon stood at the head of Cadet Unit 3. Not because he had claimed the position, because no one else contested it. Coalition observers filled the elevated ring above the platform. Representatives from multiple species watched in attentive silence. Commander Vaelrin stepped forward. Her uniform bore fresh insignia, recognition of her handling of the incursion. A faint scar still marked her temple where debris had struck her. "Cadets," she began, voice carrying effortlessly across the plateau, "you entered this program as representatives of individual worlds." Her luminous gaze swept across them. "You stand here now as representatives of the coalition." She paused. "Some of you arrived with doubts." A subtle shift of her eyes toward Leon. "Some of you inspired doubt." No one moved. "You have faced simulation. You have faced live incursion. You have faced gravity variance and combat stress beyond baseline expectations." Her voice hardened slightly. "And you did not fracture." A coalition insignia hologram ignited above the platform. One by one, names were called. Kael'thar stepped forward when summoned, receiving his tactical designation with a deep, controlled bow of his scaled head. Thalara followed. When her name was called, Sergeant Thalara Vaer, she stepped forward with fluid grace. Her bioluminescent markings glowed faintly brighter than usual, controlled but present. Finally, Leon Fischer, Earth. The air felt still. Leon stepped forward. He did not rush. He did not posture. He simply walked. Whispers rippled faintly through the observer gallery. Vaelrin faced him directly. "When you arrived," she said clearly, "projections indicated an 82% probability of washout." A faint stir moved through the ranks. Leon kept his expression neutral. "You demonstrated measurable physical advantage due to planetary gravity variance," Vaelrin continued. "That alone would have justified performance reevaluation." A brief pause. "But strength without discipline fractures cohesion." Her gaze sharpened. "You demonstrated restraint." Leon felt Kael'thar's presence steady behind him. "You demonstrated tactical awareness." Thalara stood unflinching to his right. "You demonstrated willingness to sacrifice advantage for unity." Vaelrin lifted a small metallic insignia, Coalition Tactical Integration Crest. "Earth gravity forged your body," she said, "but choice forged your character." She affixed the crest to his armor. "Welcome to the Coalition Armed Forces, Lieutenant Leon Fischer." "Lieutenant." The word landed heavier than gravity ever had. Leon saluted. "Thank you, ma'am." Applause was not a coalition custom. But something close to it happened. Kael'thar struck one armored fist against his chest in a Vexari sign of respect. Several others followed suit in their own cultural equivalents. Even some of the observers inclined their heads. Not curiosity. Recognition. After the formalities, as the formation dissolved into smaller clusters, the armored delegate who had once questioned Leon's inclusion descended from the gallery. They stopped in front of him. "Human," the delegate said through a modulated voice. "Lieutenant," Leon corrected gently. A pause. "Lieutenant," the delegate amended. "Coalition projections regarding Earth will be amended." Leon folded his hands behind his back. "Good. You represent your species well." Leon met the reflective visor without hesitation. "We tend to do that under pressure." The delegate studied him for a moment longer, then turned and departed without further comment. Kael'thar approached next. "You outrank me now," the Vexari rumbled. Leon shook his head slightly. Rank doesn't change that you saved my life. Kael'thar's golden eyes narrowed in approval. In battle, we stood equal. Always, Leon replied. The Vexari extended a forearm, a traditional warrior clasp. Leon gripped it firmly. No imbalance. No competition. Just respect. As the plateau gradually cleared, Leon stepped away toward the edge of the overlook. The twin moons were rising again. Footsteps approached quietly. He didn't need to turn. Thalara stopped beside him, her presence calm but charged. You carry new weight, she observed. Leon exhaled slowly. Feels different than Earth gravity. How so? Back home, gravity presses down, he said. Here, expectation does. She considered that. Do you regret coming? He didn't hesitate. No. Her silver eyes reflected starlight. When you first arrived, she said softly, I believed you would fail. Leon smiled faintly. You weren't alone. I calculated that you would rely on brute strength. And you relied on choice. He turned slightly toward her. And you. She hesitated, not from uncertainty, but from vulnerability. I did not anticipate attachment, she admitted. The word lingered between them. Leon's pulse quickened, though his expression remained steady. Attachment inefficient, he asked quietly. Her tendrils shifted subtly in the evening air. Yes, she said. A beat. And worth it. Silence stretched comfortably this time. Leon looked back at the horizon. On Earth, he said, we didn't evolve under light gravity, we evolved under pressure. She stepped closer. And what does that create? She asked. He looked at her fully now. Resilience, he said, endurance and sometimes stubborn hope. Her luminous markings brightened gradually, tracing soft lines along her cheekbones. You changed this unit, she said. Leon shook his head gently. We changed it. A faint smile touched her expression, subtle but unmistakable. There will be more incursions, she said. Probably. More doubts. Definitely. She extended her hand, not formally, not ceremonially, simply offering connection. Leon took it. Her grip was firm, warm against his skin. Then we face it, she said, together. He squeezed lightly. Together. Behind them, Kael'thar's training spire cast a long shadow across the black stone. The coalition would adjust its projections. Earth would no longer be categorized as an uncertain variable. It would be categorized as a force multiplier. Not because humans were invincible. Not because they were superior in every environment. But because under pressure, under gravity, they adapted. They endured. And when the weight increased, they did not collapse. They stood taller. Far above, in orbit, coalition vessels adjusted formation patterns to include a new designation under tactical command listings. Lieutenant Leon Fischer. Planet of origin, Earth. Environmental classification, high gravity. Combat notation, adaptive under load. Recommended integration, full. And on the surface of a world where gravity once felt light and expectations once felt crushing, a human stood beside an alien soldier who no longer saw him as an experiment. She saw him as an equal, as a partner, as something worth choosing despite inefficiency. The stars above Kael'thar were distant, cold, unforgiving. But humanity had never required forgiving conditions to survive. It had required gravity. And now the galaxy understood what that meant.